Hello everyone, it's Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist, back today for day 54 of 100 Days of Ayurveda. So I would love to welcome you all. It's been 54 days. It's been a pretty amazing journey. For those who are new to me, I'm a doctor of Ayurvedic medicine. I'm an MD in Ayurveda. I'm also a registered holistic nutritionist. And for 100 days of Ayurveda, what I do is for 100 days, I share about some Ayurvedic topic and I discuss about what are certain practical strategies from Ayurveda that you can implement right away in your life. So if you are new to these lives, what you can also do is you can go onto my website, or not my website, sorry, my Facebook page, and you can always access all the previous recordings as well, right? I've been doing a live for 54 days on Ayurveda. I have been doing a lot more lives, so this technically could be even more than 54 because I've been consistently doing a lot of Facebook lives for some time now. And those all you will find it on my Facebook page. Manjiri Ayurveda is the name of the Facebook page. So you can always go back and look for more information. Thank you, Tamji, for being here. Thank you, Ushaji, for being here. So if you are watching this live, please comment with a live or just say a quick hi so I know you're here. If you are watching this as a replay, please make sure you put a hashtag as replay so I know that you're watching this. And if at any point of time, if you have any questions about hormones or anything else that I'm talking about, please put your questions in the comment section and don't forget to tag me, right? So when you tag me, then I know 100% that I can see um, all the questions that you have for me. Otherwise, I might end up missing them, right? So make sure you tag me. So today we're going to talk about a really interesting topic again, how to balance your hormones, right? So we've been talking about hormones for some time now. We've discussed menopause. We've discussed, what our female hormones are like. So yesterday was a big discussion on estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone and how they function in your body. So if you have missed yesterday's live, you can go to my Facebook page and check it out again. Hi Jocelyn, nice to see you. Hello Chitra Kaku, nice to see you. So today we're going one step further and we are finding solutions, right? And we're going to have a discussion on what exactly does it mean to balance your hormones. And I am talking about female hormones. I'm not going to discuss a lot about thyroid or adrenals. A little bit I'll touch today, but thyroid is a completely different topic by itself, which I will discuss at some other point of time, right? So one of the biggest, like when we talk about balancing your hormones get out of balance because of your diet, right? Ahar or anything that you ingest. Ahar sometimes can also mean that anything that you bring in through your senses, right? So anything that you're bringing in has a tremendous capacity to impact you in a good or not so good way. So if you are eating foods that are healthy for you, if you are eating foods that are nourishing for you, you are going to feel really good about yourself. Your body is going to function amazing, right? But if you start ingesting foods which are not so great for you, they will have a big impact on your body as well. And we're going to discuss about those. We're going to also talk about some specific ones today. Hi, Tony. Nice to see you. It's been a while that I've seen Tony. Yeah, nice to see you. How have you been doing? So let's talk about food first, right? So every time I say, like, I have a common, theme in my talks, and that is food, right? So every time you eat, you're making a conscious choice of either feeding your disease or inflammation or fighting it. So if you want to fight the inflammation, if you don't want to feed your disease, what you will do is you will try having foods that are extremely healthy for you. And that's very important to know, right? So if you are waking up, feeling puffy or groggy, if you have joint pain, if you have emotional symptoms, if you have any kind of imbalances, breast tenderness, cramping in your lower abdomen, if you're having depression or anxiety, if you feel extremely tired and fatigued, so these are some symptoms, if you're losing a lot of hair, if your skin feels like it's sagging suddenly and you're losing all the suppleness and the moisture from your skin, so those are some signs that your hormones could be out of balance. And foods that have an inflammatory effect can definitely trigger it, right? So the first thing I always tell when we talk about foods is to avoid any kind of foods that you are allergic to, right? Food allergies, food sensitivities are extremely common, and they could be different for different people. So if it's dairy, if it's gluten, if it's soy, if it's corn, like whatever it is that you're reacting to, always work with a nutritionist, always work with someone to identify those allergies and take them out of your diet, right? So that's the very first step. Unless and until you take out these foods, your body is not going to find that balance, right? Unless and until you take out any foods, any substances that are irritating you, that are inflaming your body, you won't find balance. So this is the most important step that you have to do, right? Okay. So we have a few more people today. That's amazing. Hi, Girija. Nice to see you again. And hi, Ramachandra. Thanks for tuning in live. So going back to the foods, one common factor that I want to talk about is dairy, right? And milk is one of the most common foods that's even eaten today. Or there's a lot of dairy, there are a lot of cheeses, that are still relished today. And there's a huge debate on good dairy or good milk versus bad milk, right? So is milk inflammatory, is it not inflammatory, does milk have growth factors? So I'm going to talk a little bit about milk. So milk is a substance that would naturally have some estrogens, right? But milk also has a lot more estrogens in today's world because of how the farming is, right? So if you're not buying organic milk, if you're buying milk from the cartons, right? One of the things is, the milk structure in India is very different. It's A2 cows. What we say, the casein structure is very different. In North America, it's very different, right? So unless you find a healthy A2 cow whose casein is much more digestible, you might have reactions to the casein. That's the first part. Milk also has certain growth factors which are extremely necessary for the young cows to grow, right? And milk for most people, even cow milk in Ayurveda, has been worshipped. It has been called satmya, or something that works extremely well, or that's compatible to even young children or everyone. But today, the milk structure itself has changed. Today, the milk production itself has changed. If you are having issues of high estrogen, right? If you are having issues related to any kind of growth factors, there's any kind of growth, there's any kind of kapha imbalance. So be it fibroids, be it PCOS, be it any other conditions of growth or kapha imbalance or obstruction of channels, try to avoid milk, right? So try to avoid cow milk, especially out of the carton. That's the first step. If you cannot avoid it, right, the one thing to do is always boil it before you drink it. Heating it makes it more digestible. So if you still want to drink your milk, you can make sure you're boiling it to a nice temperature, letting it cool down, and add some cardamom and also some turmeric, which will take down the mucus effect of milk, right? So for issues where you have excess estrogen, right? If you are having any estrogen imbalance, if you are having excess estrogen in the body, I would recommend you to avoid the milk. If you have fibroids or conditions like that, or even for cancers, if you avoid the cow dairy, that would be fantastic for some time. But if you don't have enough estrogen, if you have low estrogen, try to get organic milk. Don't get the carton ones, or don't get, like, it would be ideal if you could have a cow or a farmer close to you that you know and work with, right? But if not, buy whole milk, which is organic, right? And that's how it can support you, right? So in scenarios where you are undergoing menopause, where you don't have enough hormones, and certain phytoestrogens like shatavari, is a very potent herb and works fantastically with milk. Even ashwagandha for adrenal balancing, milk can serve as a great vehicle. It can serve as a great anupan. It can help potentiate the action of certain herbs. which are meant for nourishment, right? So like shatavari, you would always take it with milk. Ashwagandha, you would always take it with milk because you want to nourish your body, right? But in certain instances where, as we spoke before, there's excess nourishment or there's excess growth, you don't want to do that, right? So no shatavari for any excess growths and no milk for any excess growths, right? So be a little bit diligent about what kind of condition this is. I'm giving you general advice. This is not one-on-one advice because I have to work with you, know your history to be able to make specific recommendations. But for the most general factor, dairy is something you can avoid. If you are reacting to gluten, which is rye, spelt, barley, um, and wheat, right? So avoiding wheat products, avoiding refined products, like really cleaning up your diet is extremely important when it comes to having a healthy diet for balancing your hormones. So anything that's inflaming you, so if it's dairy, take it out. If it's wheat, take it out. If it's corn, take it out. Again, when we talk about soy is another big factor. So soy, sometimes some people absolutely love soy and they're like, soy is the best thing that's happened. And if you look at Japan or if you look at China and if you look at how much tofu they consume, and that's a great source of protein, pretty much has all essential amino acids and it's almost like a complete protein. The one thing to realize when having soy is it's also extremely heavy to digest. So fermented soy, known as tempeh, is easier to digest, right? Or something like miso, which is a fermented soybean paste, which you can make soups out of. So if you are lacking in hormones, because yesterday we discussed what it means to have excess estrogen, and we also discussed what it means to have low estrogen, right? So if you have low estrogen in your body, if you're going through menopause, if you're going through hot flashes, night sweats and all that, or early menopause, right, that we discussed yesterday. So if you're still in your 30s and you're experiencing menopausal symptoms, you could prolong the phase or you could prevent it, right, by taking phytoestrogens, which are going to support your body. And these phytoestrogens are plants which have estrogen like activity, which have also been found via research to protect against breast cancer and certain other cancers, right? So these are good estrogens from plants. Yesterday we discussed bad estrogens from the environment, right? So xenoestrogens are bad estrogens from the environment, where we talked about plastics and all that, but the plant estrogens are really good for you, right? So they can actually balance your hormone, they can support your hormones. And flaxseed is really good for having plant estrogens. Soy is extremely good for having plant estrogens. Chickpeas, bean sprouts, they also have these plant estrogens, right? So if you're going through early menopause, or if you have low amounts of hormones, and sometimes they also balance the excess estrogens, they'll help detoxify it. So these are some things to include in your diet. Chickpeas or garbanzo beans, bean sprouts, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, they have good amounts of phytoestrogens, right? So that's something to include in your diet. The other thing to include when we talk about food is, as I mentioned yesterday, cruciferous vegetables, right? So cruciferous vegetables are kale, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and they are extremely good because they have something called DIM as well as indole 3 carbinol. So indole 3 carbinol is found in broccoli, cauliflower, bok choy as well, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kohlrabi. So the indole 3 carbinol detoxifies any bad estrogens in the body, right? And it's produced, it is metabolized to form something known as DIM or indolyl methane, right? So this DIM has found to have good effect against cancers, right? It can particularly prevent breast cancer. So eating a cup of cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, bok choy, kohlrabi, whatever it is that you like, include at least 1 cup every day, right? And steam those or cook those, as I mentioned yesterday. So you're going to digest it better. And a lot of cruciferous vegetables aggravate your vata dosh. So you are not going to aggravate that vata dosh. You're not going to throw your thyroid out of balance, as I mentioned yesterday, because these can also stop your thyroid from functioning well. So when you have steam it, the goitrogenic effect of these foods is not there anymore. So that's extremely important to know, right? So a few things we discussed so far are milk, not to have it if you have any growth like effects, or excess growth in the body in terms of fibroid or anything, or excess hormones. We discussed phytoestrogens, which you should be including in your diet, right? And we discussed cruciferous vegetables, which you should be including in your diet, right? Now if you're having issues with hormones, the one thing you should always aim for is weight loss, right? And this is something that's very common during menopause. So when you have good amounts of estrogen in the body, which is your female hormone, that also keeps your cells sensitive to insulin, which is your sugar hormone, right? Sugar balancing hormone. So when women go through menopause, sometimes they go through a double whammy. So the cells are no longer sensitive to insulin because their estrogen is declining, right? And that's when their body starts gaining fat around the midsection, right? So that's when they start feeling tired, and the blood sugar keeps going up and down. And one of the best ways at this time, so if you are somebody whose blood sugar is shooting up and down, and one of the signs is if you're feeling hangry, right? If you're feeling angry when you're hungry, or you're shaky or extremely tired when you're hungry, your chances are that your blood sugar is not stable. So it is extremely important to get rid of sugary foods and refined foods, and even limit fruit sugar, right? So I know a lot of the times people start eating lots of fruit when they want to be healthy, but fruit sugar also converts to sugar in the body, and that has to be taken care of, right? So working with somebody to absolutely get off excess sugars, cutting down a little bit of your carbs as well, especially those easy, cheap carbs like breads and pastas, is a good option at that time, because you will balance your blood sugar. You're not going to put a lot of pressure on your insulin, because it's not sensitive anymore, your cells are not sensitive to insulin anymore. And this can really help during menopause, right? So if you change your diet, if you work with someone to change your diet, that actually can have a lot of benefit for your hormones. So that's something to understand and think about. So maintaining a healthy weight is extremely important for your hormonal health as well. And as I mentioned yesterday, fat cells can actually secrete estrogen, right? So if you are having excess fat in the body, you are going to have imbalanced estrogen, right? If you are an excess estrogen, there's sometimes also like PCOS is one condition which is due to insulin resistance, but where you can have excess estrogen and increase in testosterone as well, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So especially for somebody that has PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, cutting down carbs, especially like any sugary foods, any refined carbs, is extremely, extremely important. So now we discuss some foods to eat, some foods not to eat, right? So one of the other things that you can start including in your diet is bitter foods. So anything that's bitter tasting, like chicory, arugula, watercress, spinach is slightly bitter, kale is bitter, or there are different herbs that you can find, but anything that's bitter to taste, bitter melon, right? So bitter taste has a cleansing action on your body, and that also helps with your liver function. So adding some bitter foods in your diet is really going to help balance your hormones as well, and stimulate your liver to function better, right? You always want your liver to be functioning the best when you have hormonal issues, because your liver is the one thing that helps detoxify everything. So it's extremely important for you to focus on your liver whenever you're trying to, detoxify your body of any excess hormones. And then yesterday we also spoke about taking a lot more foods out, like artificial colors and pesticides and plastic bottles and plastic wrap and cosmetics, and we discussed all of that, right? So a lot of the times, people come to me and they want to detoxify their body. The one thing is your body is detoxifying all the time, and that is the reason you're peeing and pooping every day, or you're sweating, right? So when you go have a bowel moment, or when you have urination, when you sweat, toxins are eliminated from your body, right? This is also your detox cycle. So if you stop your body by overloading it, by overloading your channels that detoxify, your body is not going to detoxify. So this is something that's extremely important to understand, that don't overload your body, right? Don't put things in it, substances that you can't pronounce. So if you're going shopping and looking at certain foods, do not eat foods that you cannot pronounce. Do not eat foods with ingredients that you cannot pronounce, because some of these chemicals, if your body cannot process it, will be stored, and it will be an excess burden, especially for your liver. So that's one thing to always keep in mind is, always try to avoid your body from accumulating a lot of toxins. And when we spoke about cruciferous vegetables, when we spoke about flax seeds, they also have fiber, and these can also help your body's natural detoxification. So having a cup of cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, whatever it is that you like, will help detoxification. Adding more sunflower seeds, adding more flax seeds, adding more fiber is also going to help with the detoxification. So these are some simple remedies to try. And then, as I always say, hot water is one of the best things to have. So every day and night, if you start drinking warm or hot water, that also increases your circulation, and it's also going to make you sweat a little bit and aid detoxification, right? And it's something that's very fantastic. Like, hot water is also a fat buster. So if you are going through any crisis where your midsection is suddenly increasing in size, or you're developing a muffin top, hot water itself will help you lose excess weight or mobilize that excess weight from your body, right? So these are a few things that we talked about. Now, other food strategy to have is having protein at each meal. And I have mentioned this during blood sugar balance when we speak about blood sugars, that having some kind of protein at each meal, whether it's your beans and legumes, or lentils, or chicken, poultry, fish, whatever it is that you like, right? So having small amounts, you don't have to have a lot of protein, but have small amounts of protein with each meal to help you feel balanced, right? And it will also help with making you feel a little bit fuller, because you can have a lot more carbs, and it takes a lot more time for the carbs to fill you up. But with protein, your body can be filled up, or you can feel satisfied pretty easily. So at least some protein to balance your blood sugar and help balance your body. um, Avoiding a lot of starches in the morning, right? So I know with Ayurveda, there's a big strategy where we eat oatmeal or some kind of fruit in the kapha time. But if you are having issues with blood sugar imbalance, don't start your day with lots of fruits. I know some people have fruit bowls and they mix a lot of fruits. So having an apple is perfectly fine. Having a few nuts and seeds with it is perfectly fine. If you're having oatmeal, have steel cut oats, because they have lots of fiber in them. And then you can chop up some almonds or walnuts and throw it in there, right? So that's going to help give you that fiber that will make you feel full, and also some amount of protein that will help balance your body, right? So those are a few strategies to do. I'm going to look at my notes. Any questions so far? Any questions so far from anyone? Okay. So exercise is the other thing that I wanted to talk about when we discussed, the food strategies, you have to exercise, right? For your body's circulation and also detoxification. So when you are exercising, when you are moving your body, it is extremely important to for weight loss requirements and also your stress management, right? So when you exercise, you're also secreting those endorphins. So if you're having mood highs and lows all the time, right? So try to exercise every single day, because your exercise is going to give you those endorphins. Exercise is also going to help you with muscle building, right? So the more muscle you have, the more strength you have in the body, and this is also going to serve balance your body. So exercising every single day, it could be anything that you like. I personally like going for walks and hiking and being in the nature. That helps me feel extremely grounded. You can do any kind of exercise that you like. If you like tabatas, which is also some of my favorite exercises, there are 20-second sprints. There are 20-second sprints where you're doing a certain activity and then you take a break for 30 or, yeah, 10 seconds. And this can vary, but these are pretty dynamic or high intensity exercises that really sweat you and really also help you build muscle, because you're using your own body weight, right? Yoga is another option. So you can definitely go for yoga, especially if you're going through any kind of emotional event or emotional crisis. So yoga also helps you connect within and really grounds your mind, right? And when we talk about hormones, it's never just your body that's impacted, it's also your mind and emotions, right? So that's something to consider when you are going through any emotion, hormonal issues. So I'm gonna do a few questions or take a few questions. So Girija is asking me, where do we ask the question? So right here in the comment section where you've typed, you can ask questions right here. I can see those questions and I can answer those. So Johanna, hi, nice to see you live. So is daily fasting a good idea? Again, fasting is a good idea unless you have any vata imbalance or are in depletion, right? So if your body is already depleted, fasting is going to be a bad idea. But if you have any issues where your body is over storing food, or if your body is taking, like, there's a lot of storage, you've gained fat, or you're having digestive issues, or there's digestive toxins known as ama, fasting can be a good idea then, right? So daily really depends. I do intermittent fasting myself. I'm a kapha type, so I prefer not to eat anything earlier in the morning till 10 or 12, and then I try not to have anything past dinner at 6. So I do it for myself, but you have to look at your body type and really find out whether fasting is working for you or not. The second question I have is from Ramachandra. He's asking whether oats contain gluten. So technically, oats do not contain gluten by themselves. They could be manufactured in a facility which also makes breads or any other, grains that could have gluten. So there could be cross contamination. So for people who are celiac or extremely sensitive to gluten, the oats are labeled as gluten free because they have not been processed in the same facility. But oats by themselves do not contain gluten. So Tony is asking me how many carbs a day ish. I can't say that because it's a different number for everyone. And I don't always focus on carb counting, right? I kind of strategically teach you in the terms of servings, which is an easier way, and then you can also implement it when you go out for dinners or something. So that's what I do with my clients. Tony is asking me that she's taking spirulina 4,000 milligrams a day and it's making you feel great. So if it's making you feel good, that's fine. But again, it depends. When we talk about numbers, I can't give personalized advice because I don't know what's going on with you, right? So try to avoid that. So Girija is saying pure oats are gluten. I don't realize that pure oats are gluten free. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Pure oats are gluten free. They don't have any gluten in them, but they could be processed in a facility where there could be any gluten in them, or they could be processed, contaminated. So pure oats are gluten free 100%. Johanna is asking me which type. I didn't get the question. Are you talking about the body type? So a Vata Prakriti person should not be fasting for too long or fasting in the first place unless or she absolutely needs to, because Vata kind of body does not have a lot of stored energy, right? So they need food to carry on all their activities. So if you go onto my website, Johanna, it's www.manjirinadkarni.com. And in the resources, there's going to be a dosha quiz. I'm redoing my website, but it's still on my old website. So I'm going to see if I can quickly post the link to my website, but you will be able to find it on my website, manjirinadkarni.com. And there's a dosha quiz that you can download and you can find out which is your dosha type. But pittas can do a little bit of fasting. Kaphas can definitely fast. But if you have a vata kind of condition, or if you have a vata dominant body type, I would avoid a lot of fasting, especially, right? So the other way, certain herbs work fantastic, right? So certain herbs can also support your hormones. And certain we yesterday we spoke about the connection of adrenal glands and your hormones, right? So if you are having adrenal glands that are super stressed and fired, something like ashwagandha or maca could also work, right? Shatavari works for a lot of women who have hormonal issues, but again, when you're working with herbs, always work with a practitioner. So Girija is asking me, can we get A2 milk in Canada? I don't believe so. So I'm not sure if we can find it or get it. And even raw unpasteurized milk is banned in Canada. So at least in Ontario, so you can't get it. For sure, that's a big challenge. Yeah. So we talked about movement. The other thing when it comes to hormonal issues, like no matter what you're going through, the one thing that you have to do is meditate, right? So really try to stabilize your mind, because when we talk about your hormones, your hypothalamus is a part of your brain, right? Which has something called pituitary. So when we look at this master gland, that controls the signaling of all your hormones and stuff. So if you stabilize your mind, if you stabilize your brain function, if you stabilize that, it's really going to balance your hormones as well, right? And when we talk about pituitary hormones, we talk about lots of different hormones, right? So that's extremely important to do. I'm going to have a discussion on endocrine sometime later as well. So Johanna is asking me a question. When you see a client, what tests do you run to help them blood? I don't do any blood testing, Johanna. So if you are based in Sarnia, I work in Blue Water Nutrition. So in Blue Water Nutrition, I can definitely, have somebody else do your live blood microscopy and take a look at your blood. It's a very different test than mainstream blood testing, but I do offer salivary hormonal tests for those that are interested. I do offer where they'll take samples of your saliva, and these are your bioactive hormones that they'll measure in your saliva. And you can measure your stress hormones and how the pattern is throughout the day. And you can also measure your female hormones. So I do test for that. I do test for allergies and food sensitivities. Um, I do test for body fat. I have a machine, but right now, because of the social distancing stuff, like I can order online tests or different tests where you can take the samples and give it away, but I can't do any one-on-one close tests, right? But I can definitely, like, feel free to get in touch with me and we can discuss more. We can set up a 15-minute free consult if you like, and we can discuss more for sure. So Tony said she has to go and she'll be touched. Oh, thanks so much for being live. So Raluka is saying that avoid animal and preserved foods, more alkaline sattvic food, milk and cheese you're avoiding. So any food recommendations to avoid? So I did discuss the foods to avoid and the foods to have right in the beginning of the Facebook Live. So if you've just joined in, Raluka, you can always go back to the live and check out, all the foods that I discussed. I'm almost like ending the discussion by saying meditation, right? So meditation, stabilizing your mind, breath work is extremely important for people who talk about hormones, right? For women who are impacted by imbalanced hormones, whether it's acne, whether it's menstrual irregularities, whether you're going through menopause, whether it's PCOS, because hormones are so very dynamic in the body and they always end up impacting your mind and your emotions. You have to always work on your mind and emotions as well, right? When you're going through any hormonal issues. So no hormonal protocol, in my opinion, when I work with my clients, is complete without a meditation or a grounding practice or breath work. So these are also something that's extremely important to understand and do. Girija, you're most welcome. Thank you so much. Johanna, thank you so much. Ramachandra is talking about seaweed. So yes, seaweed does have a lot of iodine. It does have minerals, right? So those are a few things you can definitely have in your diet. And seaweed, I'll be discussing a lot more when I talk about iodine during the thyroid talk. I'll be soon hosting a talk on thyroid, and we will be discussing about thyroid soon, and we'll be talking about seaweed and iodine and other rich sources of food, right? So for now, nurturing yourself when you're going through hormonal issues, giving the time, giving the space. And I keep saying this, but this is extremely important. It's not just about how many herbs you take or what supplements you take, but really going inward, seeing what it is that your body requires and really balancing it, and seeing why your hormones are out of balance, right? So every time people ask me, oh, what's the best way to do this? What's the best way to do that? The best way is always to find the root cause of your issues and try to eliminate the root cause. So if your hormones are getting out of balance because you're too stressed, then you have to manage your stress, right? If your hormones are out of balance because you're eating junk food or you're adding a lot of sugar, then you have to manage that. So really the solution depends on what is going on with your life and what is causing the diseased condition or the imbalance in you. So that's something important to understand. So okay, it's 9:09 and I'm almost winding up with the talk. So thank you all so much. Tomorrow, for those who live in Sarnia, and those who live outside, I think you can also download an app for um, the radio show that I'm hosting tomorrow. So I'll be interviewed for Ask the Expert. It's a bi-monthly show that was stopped for a little while because of the whole COVID crisis, but we're back tomorrow. I'll be talking about weight management, right? So I'll be talking about weight management with during the current quarantine situation. I'll be talking about emotional eating and certain strategies to have in place to prevent emotional eating, right? So this is extremely important. If you are impacted and if you are stressed and that low serotonin is like pushing you to have your sugars, so please tune in to the talk. I'll also be live streaming the talk. I'm going to try and see if I can even live stream the talk on Instagram. I'm going to try that and see how it works. I don't quite know how it works because I'm going to be calling in. Usually I'm in the radio station for the shows, but tomorrow I'll be calling in. So, but I'll try to see if I can live stream it either on Instagram or on Facebook itself, and we'll see how it goes. So thank you all for watching this live. As always, if you like this radio, what am I saying? Sorry. If you like this video, if you like this Facebook Live, please feel free to share it. If you know any friends that need these ideas or this information, please, feel free to tag them here. And thanks so much for your support. Thank you for watching this live. You have a fantastic night and have a great weekend. Thank you, Ramchandra. Thanks, Ushaji. Thank you, Tamji. Thanks, Jocelyn. It's always been learning. Yeah, I try to share whatever I know, and I'm always learning too. So when I share things, I know I always learn so much more. So thanks everyone for watching this live, and I will be back for the Facebook Live on Monday around the same time, and I'll be talking about a certain topic which I haven't decided yet, but I'll post it on Monday. So Monday through Friday are the Facebook lives, and we're on day 54 today. Will be day 55, and I'll continue with the 100 days of Ayurveda, and then we'll see how it goes. Perfect. So have a fantastic night, and I'll see you all soon on Monday. Bye for now.